innovation activities can be obtained. And another thing is industries, they also have something called as CSR, that's corporate social responsibilities, and under this they also give some funding to the institutions to to enable them to effectively implement innovation and startup ecosystem into their institute. So that way, and through sponsorship and donations also, such fund institute can obtain. And indeed, the alumni is going to play an important role, because alumni are the people who are working in either industry ecosystem somewhere, or government ecosystem, or some of them might be having their startups, and they can help to in promotion of this innovation and entrepreneurship startup activities in the institution. Eligibility is what is important for the startup facility. That is the fact a person, the individual who is applying for this one can be a student of SBJITMR, alumni, any other applicant with relevant ideas, or he or she can be a faculty member or all non-teaching staff member. So all the proposals that will be once the incubation facility is established and when the startup ecosystem is established, then all such proposals, all such requests will be routed through institution innovation and startup committee with the submitted to the approval to CEO SBJITMR for approval. And the startup admissibility procedure means there are certain things which are proposed in National Innovation and Startup Policy only, like for students, faculties, non-teaching staff member, and alumni of SBJITMR, application should be submitted in due format to the Institution Innovation and Startup Committee. This is, of course, we will have to do in implementation phase 2. Right now, we are into the implementation phase 1, where onboarding of the NISP coordinator is done. Policy which we have framed, Institution Innovation Startup Policy, that has been uploaded, and other documents which are required are in the process of uploading. So for phase 1, so once we go to traverse to the phase 2, then such things will be there, like what will be the startup, and but we have already defined a framework for this. Then selection procedure. So application which will be submitted, which needs to have a detailed business plan, which cover different aspects like description, value proposition, product and services, market and competition analysis, revenue model, milestones and timelines, development and marketing plan. So all these things will be assessed by the expert committee. Firstly, by the innovation and institution innovation and startup committee, and then the startup founders who have been the actual experts in this domain, who will evaluate this, and then final decision will be made whether the proposal for incubation of that particular startup in the incubation center is approved or not. And after that, of course, the admitted startup has to enter into the agreement, and later on that will be screening criteria will be modified. So we have actually came up with the first version, we can say, of the National Institution Innovation and Startup Policy. But later on, we will always have the flexibility and chance to modify it based upon our own experiences, based upon the suggestions, what real-time experiences we face, and so on. Infrastructure support, which can be extended, is office space, internet connection, access to computing facilities. This can be offered to the startup which is incubated in the incubation center. And SBJITMR can also allow the startups to access departmental laboratories, but then through proper application and other things that has to be routed. And then the charges for the institutional, of course, if the faculties, non-teaching staff, students of SBJITMR, if they want to use these resources for doing their innovative projects, for doing their for anything which they want to later on convert into the startup activity, then these charges may be waived off. But anybody who is not from any of the above categories, like teaching, non-teaching, or students, then such the nominal charges for this may be decided later on. That what can be. Mentoring and advisory services. So basically, in the journey of the startup, like from innovation, coming an idea into the mind, it, and then converting that idea into the product-based startup or service-based startup, whatever it may be, and later on nurturing it, and then getting some real-time outcomes out of that startup. It's a very long journey, and of course, the mentoring and advisory services are required for this particular purpose. So this can be done, I mean, at the later on stage. That is, the mentor can be, once the startup is established, once the startup is in the incubation center of this institute, then such services on the request of the respective startup may be provided. And then the mentor, whomsoever, if they want to have some full-time mentoring, or if they want to have some one time or two time or three times guidance or mentoring sessions from the any external mentor, then of course we will provide the whatever are there into our network, we will help them. And then later on, this can be compensated by either company. I mean, the compensation or the remuneration that is for the mentor, it is either by equity sharing or by providing the fees on mutual consent. So that is something which we have decided. Tenure in the incubation center is typically planned for 24 months. That is from the date of incubation of the startup into the incubation center. For the period of 24 months, the startup is permitted to stay in the incubation center, and then that may be extended to another 12 months. That is 6 months plus 6 months, and return 6 plus 6 months. So after review at each stage, after 6 months and after 6 months. So maximum tenure which is there right now is 36 months. And Institution Innovation and Startup Committee may at its own discretion permit company to extend this stay further for the further maximum period of 12 months. Because like once the idea behind incubating a startup into the incubation center is that we will provide that ecosystem, we will provide a startup to gain that maturity, to enter into the real-time situation, to cope up with the different problems they have. And once they are very much confident that even though they can have some startup somewhere outside, they can purchase a land or they can purchase some office, and then they can do that. So ultimately, other startups which are into the process, they should get a chance to. So that's why this locking period or tenure has been fixed in the sense that the role of the incubation center or the institute will be to nurture that startup, to bring that startup into that maturity level where they can survive. Or of course, whether their product that they are developing, whether the services that they are providing, the success of that service or the product, that success cannot be guaranteed by the incubation center, neither by the incubation center, neither by the institute, because it's like that. But in order to make it successful, in order to perform them better, in order to help them have more what we can say visibility in the market, mentoring and advisory services will help, and the institution innovation and startup ecosystem which will there, that will help. But of course, that thing is there. Exit. So exit, that is 36 months is the maximum tenure for which a startup can be there into the incubation system, unless and until the stay is extended by the Institution Innovation and Startup Committee. Under performance of the startup, criteria of the family be decided and applied by. So what are the criteria that are going to be there for the underperformance? That needs to be chalked down, because underperformance in terms of whatever returns they are getting from the market, or underperformance in terms of the technology which they are developing or services they are providing. So that there are those things needs to be brainstormed later on. And a startup, if they want to exit, they can do it anytime with a prior notice of 3 months and after clearance of all the dues which are due on them, like rent which they need to pay, other charges which they are supposed to pay to the institute or incubation center. So that will be there. As far as equity sharing is concerned, Institution Innovation and Startup Committee will hold the equity of about 2% of the service provided if the incubation stays for initial 2 years. And after 2 years, if the company is there into the premises or the incubation center, then 5% equity in this case will be there. And this is what is recommended by NISP on particular page number 14. Of course, the percentage of equity and revenue sharing will be periodically reviewed by the Institution Innovation and Startup Committee, and changes, if any, into this will, because ultimately this equity sharing will completely depend on the market trend and how the startup is performing and how the other what you can say, there are many parameters for deciding this factor, but right now it is 2% and maximum 5%. Then for teaching and non-teaching staff members, engagement with startups. So the NISP has also provided these things like SBJITMR faculty to have their own startups also. And the institution will consider allowing use of its resources to teaching and non-teaching, wishing to establish a startup as a full-time effort. And compensation offered to the faculty member through shares or cash must be declared. Of course, that is going to be there. And all such applications will be submitted to the fine up by the recommendation of Institutional Startup Committee, will be submitted and finally approved by the C. From, of course, these provisions which are written from 1 to 4, they are as per subject to prevailing provisions and conditions of code of conduct rules which are there by the SBJITMR, subject to code of conduct and provisions. Part-time engagement. So what NISP suggests, if faculty they want to contribute in the startup ecosystem, innovation ecosystem, then they can contribute also in the part-time mode. And teaching faculty is permitted to spend 20%, not more than 20% of their office time on the startup. And teaching faculty can go in different modes. Teaching faculty, of course, cannot be a CEO of any startup. But then teacher faculty can be there in the advisory mode or consultative role, and of course do not compromise with their existing academic and administrative duties. And there is no and in this complete process, teaching faculty member can avail their casual leaves, office duty leaves to avail by the teaching, and then for if they want some exposure visits, mentorship, networking sessions, attending startup events at any time in the year, provided adequate alternate arrangement is made, of course. And teaching load, of course, is adjusted, so that is another thing. Students involvement. Now SBJITMR may allow students to work on their innovative projects, setting up startup, including social startups, so or works as the interns or part-time in the startups. So student involvement can be there. Like student, if he is studying in the institute, so he has some innovative idea and he want to have his own startup in ecosystem in the startup, so that is also allowed. And student inventors may allow to opt for startup in place of their projects, and this is what is proposed. And student inventors may be allowed to take mini project or major project, seminars, summer training instead of that. The area in which a student wants to initiate a startup may be interdisciplinary, so it may be possible that some students from different departments, they can collectively come together and propose an idea, and then based on the scrutiny of the idea and other things, the things can be there. And of course these other academic things are also there as per NISP policy, that the NISP policy says that the requirement of thesis and for such student scholars should be suitably modified, but this is not there, like deemed to be university, they can modify these requirements for the award of degree. But we being the institution who is affiliated to Nagpur University, though we are autonomous, the requirement for award of degree, they cannot be modified in this sense. So these are the what they have recommended. So this is ultimately the recommended. In the due course of time, whenever such cases will come and whenever such things will come in implementation phase 2, then based on our own experiences, we can always provide the solution. Full-time engagement is there. So research scholar or student who want to have a renting permission to take special leave for a semester, because what they say is the semester long special leave may be given to the student, and then we coordinate for approval through proper channel, postgraduate, post-student registration, and this may be treated as withdrawal under permission from SBJITMR, for which such special leave is granted, and student will not get any scholarship for the duration. So it all depends on what kind of cases that will come, because we are into the policy framing right now. We are in the policy framing. Policy framing is done. After policy framing, we have to then go into the implementation stage too. So when the real-time problems, real-time challenges that we'll face, accordingly, we can always have the flexibility. We always have the flexibility to modify our institution innovation and startup policy there. Then part-time engagement is also there if the student who is registered in the institute. Of course, what NISP says that if some student who is the student of your institution, if they want to use their institute address to register their company, of course the incubation center is going to be there in the institute only. So that permission will be given by the institution innovation and startup committee. Interdisciplinary startups, of course, they are going to be there, and major projects, minor projects, whatever they are there, they will be there. And interdisciplinary startups will be promoted. We want that the students from different disciplines to join hands together to have some idea, startup idea in implementation phase 2. This is something related to attendance relaxation. This is what has been recommended by NISP on their particular page number 13, which says that the 25% relaxation may be provided to the student entrepreneur, and additional relaxation if the particular student want in their attendance for attending the classes, laboratory sessions, project sessions, etc. So that may be provided by the special recommendation of IIC, and as per, of course, the academic provisions of the respective academic ordinance, which is in place for SBJITMR, academic regulations. That's what we call. Product ownership is going to be the major issue, because if a particular student, teaching, non-teaching staff member, if they have come up with some product or idea, and if that is, so who is going to be the owner of that thing? So when institute facilities fund are used substantially, or when IPR is developed as a part of curriculum academic pre-incubation activity, or IPR is jointly owned by investor and the institute as per the prevailing IPR policy, for the startup pre-incubated as became subsequently incubated, for students, IPR norms will be applicable as per, of course, whatever is the IPR policy which we are having. And if there is a dispute in the ownership, like who is the owner of this particular product or patent or whatever, intellectual property, then in that case, the committee constituted by the principal SBJITMR will examine the issue after meeting the investor, and as far as possible trying to settle this on amicable basis or mutual basis. In order to what NISP had suggested, that student clubs, student bodies, within the departments, and organize different competitions, business plan competition, other boot camps as their workshops, training programs may be organized in order to inculcate, or in order to build this innovation and startup ecosystem. Of course, these activities have already started, and I think every department is doing this activity, like under the Institution Innovation and Innovation Council, and these activities are, of course, in line with only in line with the institution innovation and startup plan which NISP they have proposed, which are related to entrepreneurship, startup, innovation, IPR, everything. So these activities which we have already started in the beginning of the academic year, then this awareness of these policies, that for faculty members and students is most important, and so on. So this is what I tried explaining the national what is right now is proposing institution innovation and startup policy, which is in line with national innovation and startup policy. So if anybody has any queries, they can ask. I'll try my level best to answer it.
Yes, is there any queries from audience side? It's a nice information by Professor Akshay Deshmukh sir regarding the Institute Innovation Policies, startup policies. ये सभी अभी बहुत जरूरी है nowadays. Yes, is there any question from audience side, participants?
I don't have any question, but I would like to appreciate the efforts taken by Akshay sir for presenting the NISP policy that we have developed for SBJ Institute of Technology and Management. Because this policy is entirely prepared by Startup Coordinator in association with the Institute Innovation Council, and very soon we will be implementing this policy, and this has been reviewed or drafted or iterated 4 to 5 times, and the final draft has come up last week. And with a very short duration, Akshay sir has accepted the invitation and presented the NISP policy. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank the HOD, Electrical Department, and Dean, Sir, Thote sir, for giving you the free time so that you can represent your work. And I would like to appeal all the teachers to go through the concept of NISP, and the policy name we have given is IISC, and the policy IISC has just begun, and this can be utilized by all our stakeholders, prominently our students, those who are doing final year project. They can use this policy, and even alumni are able, even faculties can use this policy. So there may be a doubt or there may be a conflict, but if anyone is interested in going through the policy, they can directly contact Akshay sir and he'll give you the draft. And if further discussion is required, you can interact with IIC cell or Akshay sir and get your doubts cleared. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, madam. So we can conclude this session. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, it has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful session by Professor Akshay Deshmukh sir. On the behalf of the organization, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guest, Professor Akshay Deshmukh sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. And sincere thanks to all the heads of the various departments. A wide round of applause and the thanks to all the participants who made the session memorable one. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today, helping us to make this event. Thank you, one and all. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Akshay, sir. And some instruction for all the participants. Tomorrow is the last day of this faculty development program. So we will meet soon on 11 a.m. for tomorrow's session. Okay. Have a nice day. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.